How much money you make is how much money you can keep. A lot of people have big salaries, but unfortunately at the end of the month, they come home with nothing. Why? Because they're not saving money. So what are some of the best ways to save money? And what are some of the ways and proven, tried and tested methodologies that by the time you come home at the end of the month and you get that paycheck, that you actually have some money to spend or invest, or in this case, save. So let's go into some of these ways right now. First one is really simple. Create spending budgets. Now, we all know this, we all write this down, but actually one of the reasons why people, when they come home at the end of the month, they don't have any money is because they're spending more than they earn. If you earn 5,000 but you spend 6,000, doesn't matter how much money you make. And I know people who are on a six-figure salary and at the end of the month, they still come home with less because they're spending it all. So one of the best ways to do it is to save it. So a good little strategy you can use is to write down all the things that you're actually putting your money into. And then I always ask myself the question, is it an asset or is it a liability? Is it making money or is it losing money? And so anything that I put my money into is got to have the opportunity to put money into my pocket. For example, if I buy a book, is that taking money out of my pocket? Yes. But if I read that book, I can acquire some knowledge that can then get me money back. If I invest into a course and I take that course, is it costing me money? Yes. But if I utilize things with that course, I convert that cost into an asset. So a part of what you got to do, if you want to save more money, you got to look at where you're actually putting your money and also sometimes have a spending limit. I know what you're thinking, but John, there's things that just have to have. No, there's things that you don't have to have. There's things that you want. There's a difference between a want and a need. And a lot of people, they kind of get them both mixed up. So if you have that spending limit and you're able to look at all the things that you spend and where your money's actually going, if you track it, one little strategy you can use is just log into your bank account every single day and see where the money is going. Right? A lot of people, they log in not so often, right? They just see the money come in, they start spending it and they get these bills coming through. It's like, oh, why have we have this letter calling for money? It's because you're putting money into things. In fact, there's a lot of the things that you buy you're not even using. If you can actually stop using these things in the end run save you money. But for me, where I want to put a lot of my money is into this. Any way I can increase this, I can increase my knowledge, I can increase my know-how, I can increase my network, I can increase the edge on entrepreneurship business, that's what I'm going to put money into. The second thing is automate your saving. Now, some people call this taxing yourself first. Now, if you think about it, when you work in a job, especially if you're an employee, you get paid a check, but actually the money that you earn, especially here in the UK, a portion of that goes to national insurance and a portion of that goes onto tax, depending on what tax bracket you're in. So one of the things that we want to be thinking about when we are looking to save more money is to actually look at putting that money aside. I'll give an example again. I have a few of my friends who, they put this family trip together. They want to go to Vegas and like, oh, but we go to Vegas, then we need money to play on the tables and poker and blackjack and things like that. We don't have the money to do it. So they devised a system that every time that they would get paid, a portion of that goes into another account. So what happens is they are almost taxing themselves first. You see, here's the thing, and it's a very psychological game here. When money goes into your account, you feel it. When you get paid and the day you get paid, that money goes out, you actually don't feel it. And this is very interesting. So the way I think about this is, I call this the 30-30-30-10 strategy. A lot of you have heard me talk about this in the past. I'm not going to go through it again, but one of the strategies, you automate it, you put your money into different buckets, and those buckets provide either growth on your money or it goes into investment, which multiplies it. So that's why whenever we want to do something, we got to make sure that whatever you do, you have to make sure that you tax yourself first and you pay yourself first. I promise you, if you do this for a year, let's just say you take 20% of all the income that you make and it just goes out of the account. Let's imagine, right? Over the last 10 years, if you'd have just had half of your salary get put into something like Bitcoin, for example, imagine how much money you would be worth now. Of course, hindsight's a good thing, but there are a lot of things out there like this where you can actually get a higher ROI, where you can get a higher interest. There are bank accounts out there where you can get 0.5% interest per day. Now, of course, the higher the interest, the higher the risk, but you've got to be aware of these things that exist. The third one is just reduce unnecessary spending and expenses. Think of all the things that you bought this month. I want you to think about it. Like right now, what are some of the things that you bought this month? Okay, and just write it down. And then you're going to write down, why did you buy that thing? Now, sometimes I'll buy a book and I'll put it on my shelf. It's supposed to be self-development, and it ends up on the shelf, and then it becomes shelf development. In my mind, it's like, well, I didn't even use it. I've wasted my money there. No, that's not. It's now become a resource. As and when I'm ready, I can pick it up, I can turn to the page, and I can access that information. So the key is to easily access that information for me when I'm investing in this. So the key here for you is, what are you currently spending on? What are your impulse purchases on things? You go, well, I just got to have that. And by the way, I do this a lot. I'm like, okay, I got to have that. And then I end up buying it. So why did I even buy that? I don't even need it. Try and define what your needs and your wants are and what your musts are. You must have this. Is this the thing that you absolutely need? And then when you think about it, what happens is you start to look at all your necessities. Of course, you have to eat, right? If you're eating out all the time, it's much more expensive to eat out. Like one meal, like I go to some restaurants, one meal that you pay in that one meal can feed an entire family for a week. I know, I get it, but John, but I don't have time to cook. I say the same thing. So like if I calculate all the money I spend when I'm eating out, I can hire a chef for the fraction of the price and then cook me healthy food. You see how that works? So you got to start looking at how this works. Now, of course, if you don't want to hire a chef, and by the way, it's relatively inexpensive to have someone do that. People can actually come around to your house, you prepare all the things, or they prepare it, you buy them the groceries, and they cook it for you, right? Or you can cook it yourself. But if you don't have time, again, there's always ways around things, right? You got to solve that issue and stop making it an excuse, because when you have all these things, when you stop the unnecessary spending, when you stop those impulse buying, when you tax yourself first, imagine how much money you have now. You go from having no money to now having a lot of money, especially when it's saved. Now, why do you want to save money? I personally don't recommend just saving money, right? Saving money for a rainy day is great. Saving money to invest for a rainy day is better. This is why people go, well, John, I can't invest because I don't have the money. So the first step I need to teach you and share with you is, let's save that money first, put it aside so we can do something with it. Number 4 is shop smart. For example, you can go to one location and they'll sell that product way more expensive than another location. Give an example. So this light that I've just bought. So I've got an interesting light. I don't know if you can see it. That's what the light looks like, right? So this ice light, normally for each one's like £500. And this is what I paid the original price. But recently one broke. I'm like, okay, do I order another one? I thought, well, I don't need to get a new one, even though I can afford to buy a new one. So I went to eBay and I said, let's find an ice light, right? That's what they're called. So I found one and I ordered it. It cost me like £100, you know, and I get the same effect. It doesn't have to be brand new, although I do like brand new things. But again, does it have to be brand new, or does it have to be something that I can just use? So in the purpose of filming this video for you, so there's different locations you can go to shop. Now, of course, that takes some time. You may be thinking, well, John, like the time you spend cutting out these coupons and doing this, yeah, I get that. That's why you got to balance it. Sometimes the time of the year when you buy things as well. I give an example. I don't know if any of you have purchased a car recently, but do you know, let's take a BMW, for example. BMWs tend to lose 50% of its value, depending on the model. I know some go up in value, some keep its price, but generally speaking, after about 5 years, they drop 50% in price. So you could actually get a newish looking car, look for like a low mileage one and still get that car at a fraction of the price. It's interesting, like a lot of the cars that I've bought, even after 3 to 6 months, they've dropped thousands and thousands of dollars. So sometimes it's not just shopping for the deal, but it's waiting for the right timing for the deal. A lot of you may be waiting for sales and things to come up. I know what you're thinking, but John, I don't want to wait for things. Well, if you're in a position, again, the whole purpose of this is look at where can we save more money so then we can invest more money. Like the less expenses you have, the more you have to invest. And my whole ethos is this. If you have money to invest, you're now able to have that money produce a dividend or a passive income or recurring income. Use that stuff to pay for the things that don't go up in value. That's why I always want to share with you some of these processes that you can actually use to really start growing. Now, the moment you understand this, you go, oh, John, I get this. But what can I do right now? Again, sit down and shop smart. Even if you're saving 20, 30%. Now, here's the thing. People say to me, but John, you're rich, so why do you want to do that? Look, sometimes you heard the saying, you look after the pennies look after the pounds, right? But there is, a fine line of being tight with money. You don't want to be like that, but you just want to be smart about it. Make an intelligent decision. Like when you're buying property, the best time to buy a property is the end of the year, right? Because the prices always go up because no one's shopping. You want to buy a car? Go in on a Sunday, not a Saturday or a Friday. Go in towards the end of the month where they've got to make the quarters. Like, again, these are little things you can just time it. You don't have to spend that much time on it, but just know that when this stuff happens, you get a much better deal. For example, if you're flying, if you're on a holiday, wait for the flights to come out. Like, let's say you fly business, the typical price is around £5,000 for a business class flight, but you can get it half price, right? If you just wait for the right time. So if you know your schedule up front, then you can see, okay, I'm going to fly here, here, and here, and here. I'll wait for it to come up because I know there's going to be half the price. Little things like this, you can take that 2,000 that you just saved or 3,000 you just saved, put that into an investment, and then it produces you a return. So this is what you want to think about. Number 5, this is a big one. Pay off high interest loans. You know, the big mistake a lot of people make is they take one credit card out and then they pay the minimum payment, then they take another credit card out, they pay minimum payment, they take another credit card, and they take all these credit cards out, they pay minimum payment on all of them. Problem is, minimum payment, you're hardly paying anything off, which then takes you years to pay off. So if you're in this situation, you want to look at which one that's got the highest interest and focus all your attention on that one, pay that one off, and you basically knock one down like ducks, like knock this duck down, this duck down, this duck down, this duck down. Because what happens is you don't want to pay, it's the interest that sucks up a lot of the money. Now, it's different for depending on different asset classes that you're investing in. If you're investing in real estate, it's okay to pay interest because appreciation goes up and you're getting cash flow, which is more than what that payment is. But you also want to balance it as well, right? Do as I say, not as I do, right? There's that saying. So look at where your highest interest is right now. Look at where you can actually pay that off and just focus all your attention on that until it's paid off. Then you move to the next one. This is where you can get a good grip of your finances, because when you do this, you're then controlling the outcome of things. Like, what you don't want to do is work every single month, get a paycheck, then you pay for something. Let's say you pay for a loan, which is $1,000, let's say, per month. And then actually you're only paying off $20 or $30 of that loan from the 1,000, right? That doesn't make sense. So this is why it's so important to produce passive forms of income. By the way, if any of you would love to learn how to do that, I'm running a lot of virtual events that teach you how to do this. Click the link below this and you can check out the next event that's coming up. Number 6, you can do simple things like just save on utilities, right? So there are lots of energy providers out there that will give you better rates. And, you know, let's say it's summertime and you've got your heating on. You're probably wondering, why would you have your heating on? I know a lot of friends who just have their things on automatic and just turn it off. I actually know friends, and I think that's a little bit overboard, but they just never turn the heating on. So if it's freezing, they'll just wear a jumper. So look, you got to balance it a little bit as well, right? Now, turning off lights when you don't need to have it on. For example, I need to have this on because obviously I'm filming this video for you so you can see me. But like, even if you look at petrol versus diesel versus an electric car, my dad keeps saying to me, you should switch all your stuff to electric because it's cheaper. And I said, is it really cheaper? I mean, it is, because, you know, there's lots of things where you can park for free. You can go into certain cities where you don't have to pay congestion charge and things like that as well. But of course, a lot of these things do change, but you got to weigh it up at the time. So if you look at how much you pay for fuel, and people just look at it at that time and they go, well, John, you know, if you pay for the fuel, then you extrapolate that over, say, 5 years, compare that to electric, you know, you're probably saving half. So, and also when you charge a car as well, so charging at night is much cheaper than, you know, depending on where you are in the world. So again, all these little things that make a big difference, but again, you've got to look at it, right? Actually sit down and look at it. What is it actually costing you? Because unless you know how much it's costing you, you don't know how much is taken out of your pocket, right? This is why it's so important to be able to get a grip of the finances. And one of the ways to do that is to cut off all the fat and just leave what's lean, and that becomes your savings. Number 7, cook at home. You know, it's interesting. I used to work in central London. Every day I would get a double espresso from Starbucks. So if you look at how much, it's only £3.50, right? It's not that much money. But if you extrapolate, let's say I did it every single day, like people drink coffee every day, right? Sometimes 2 coffees a day. So it works out, if you had a coffee, let's say £3.50 every day, that works out at $1,277. So pounds rather. But imagine, like, if you just bought a coffee, you brewed a coffee every day and you put it into your flask and you drank it. Like, how much more money that, okay, it takes more time. Of course it does. It's less convenient. It's not as cool. It's still coffee. But again, you got to look at all these things that you can do to start saving money. If you've got extra rooms in your house right now, right, you can actually start renting out some of the rooms if you want to, again, reduce your costs. If your mortgage is, say, you know, a couple of thousand a month, but you can rent 2 bedrooms at 500 each, you save an extra 1,000. What can an extra 1,000 do? All these little things. Again, the goal of saving is not for really an emergency fund. That's not what you want to save money for. You need to save money to have allocation for things that can multiply, whether it's investing in a company, whether it's investing in stocks, whether it's investing in shares, whether it's investing in someone's startup, whether it's investing in crypto, like all these different things that you've got. Now you have the opportunity. Now you have ammo, you have bullets to be able to take those risks, if you will, because you've put that money aside. If I said to all of you, man, know what you know now about property, how many of you would have invested in property earlier? I think a lot of you would. So that's why it's really important to understand all these different nuances that come up that allow you to be able to save more so you can multiply. It's all about making money, keeping the money, and then multiplying the money. That's what you want to do. And then it goes full circle again, because once you've multiplied it, it produces money where we can make more, but now we make it more passively. So the idea is, if you look at, where you start off and you got this line that goes up, and this is your side hustle, and then you've got another line that goes down, this is your job. There comes a point where this cross happens, and that's the point of financial freedom. That's the way around we want to do it. Number 8 is to be able to have a saving goal, short term, long term. Like I told you, my friends who were going to Vegas, they wanted to have a budget to be able to spend. So let's say they want to spend $5,000, right? Which is actually what their budgets were. So what they did is they calculated how many days they had left, right? And at that point, I think it was 200 days. And what they did is they got all these envelopes and they put 1 to 200. And every time they would pick an envelope, let's say they picked number 5, they'd put $5 in it. Right? Let's say they pick another envelope and it's got 100, they have to put £100 in there. Right? Let's say they put another one that's got 17 in there, they're gonna put 17. So by the time they've done that, they've actually saved up enough money, so they've allocated, and then it becomes a game. So when you are saving, you also want to gamify that save as well. Why? Because you've got that allocated to the side and it's already happening. So it's almost like you've got these multiple pots that you're saving from. So for example, I have decentralized finance. So decentralized finance is producing. Then you've got your normal way, you're taxing yourself first, money comes in, money goes out. Then you put it into assets. So for example, if you buy a property, you've put the money in it. It's kind of like a savings, isn't it? You can extract that money anytime you want. Of course, you've got to sell the property or refinance it, but that's how you've got to look at it. That's why real estate is one of the best investments, because you can take that money and you can dump it into a property and it's almost like a savings account. So if a property is $1 million and you need a 20% deposit, you take 200 grand, you put it in there, and now you've got 200 grand in the house bank. That's how you have to look at it. Now, of course, depending on the property price you're buying, that's how you have to think about it. So that's why I buy so much property, because I think of it as like I'm just dumping money into these house bank accounts. That's how you have to think about it. And that's how you have to treat savings. So again, struggling to save up money, just follow some of these processes and keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate the process. And when you get really good, when you get disciplined, that's the key. Discipline to do it every day. Do you know a really simple thing that you can do? Get a jar at the end of every day, whatever money you have in your pocket. So let's say I pull out, I don't know how much I have in my pocket right now. Right, so I got some 50s, right? So I'll just take these 50s and then I'll stick them in. So you just look at what's in your pocket and then you just put it into a tin and look at how much money you're gonna have at the end of it. But the goal is the tin, you shouldn't be able to open it. So it's one of those tins where you have to use a can opener to open it, right? It was locked in the safe and you just shove money in. And that's how it works. And again, you're probably thinking, well, John, but it's okay for you because you got money to shove into it. But how do you get more money to shove into it? Trust me, there's lots of things lying around your house right now. Like you've got things like Facebook Marketplace, you've got eBay, there's so many different vintage, you got clothes, you got so much stuff lying around your house that you could sell for 10 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, 50 pounds, like whatever it is. There's ways to do it, but you've got to be motivated to do it. And if you do this, I promise you, not only are you going to save more money, but now you'll have the next part, which is all about allocation. Now I'll create another video on that a little bit later. So again, if you love this, like, subscribe, leave a comment below and share this with somebody who's struggling to save money.